Good evening and welcome back to Follow We Will Legends podcast. It's Wednesday evening with Stan Gordon and myself, Lynsey Glenn. Our podcast features the greatest ever Rangers legends, Rangers supporters clubs and bars from all around the world as our special guests. We would like to welcome our amazing associate sponsors of the show, supporting us this season. We have the Gallant Pioneer in Blackpool, the Gart Craig Pub, VIP Ices, Cube Glass, Country Carpets, Avia Signs, Croft Construction, Impact Signs, Aircorp Builders and EK Blinds and Shutters. Please check out their social media pages and websites as well that were shown on the screen there. Remember as well, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to our show, or if you're on any other social media platform, remember to like, comment and share. Also get your questions in early tonight. We give a very warm welcome to one of our sponsors of the show, Mr. Bill McAvoy from Aircorp Builders, and also former Rangers hero, Mr. Kevin Drinkell. Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Evening, guys.
Evening.
Yeah, we're having a good time. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. Well, we've got our quiz tonight. And the two questions tonight, and this is for a fantastic top. It's a Rangers Legends top that we wore in Blackpool, a Rangers Legends top. So whoever gets the question right here first will get this. And the two questions tonight is, who was the first senior team Kevin Drinkell played for? And name the team, the first team he managed. So that's the two questions tonight. So you can get them in, guys, and don't be Googling it. See if you can get them without Googling. But Kevin, we'll start with yourself. You were born in Grimsby. You played for Grimsby Town. Was that your team as a boy?
I think you just answered the question for It's a good opening, that, Stan.
I know.
Yeah, obviously, very fortunate. I sort of grew up in Grimsby just at a time where we had a special bunch of local players that, we played in the boys' teams together all the way through. And by the time I was 16, I was lucky enough to be playing in the big team. Made my debut at 16, alongside some of my pals who were of a similar age. So great early start. Probably given the opportunity because they hadn't been doing very well the previous two or 3 years. So a new manager came in and decided to go a bit with the youth, and really grateful for that.
Yeah, but I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Grimsby Town was in the records years and years ago as the only football team that didn't actually play in Grimsby. It was actually outside. Was it Cleethorpes?
It's Cleethorpes, which is like a mini Blackpool, if you like. So
yeah,
not a lot of people really know about Cleethorpes, but it was great as a teenager growing up. It was
I've been here. Yeah. I worked offshore.
All the people from the sort of Midlands and Yorkshire would come out there. That would be their big summer outing.
Yeah, I actually worked down there offshore, and they used to do an overnighter in Grimsby on the way down and the way back. We went to, is it Fiddlethorpe or something like that? Is that near?
There's Mablethorpe.
Mablethorpe,
yeah, just down the coast.
And we flew out for a wee place called Strubby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we used to do an overnight, and see where they used to do an overnight in this hotel. I'm trying to think of the name of it now, but when you get up in the morning, all the Alkies were in this big spare grun.
That could be any pub.
And,
any pub in Grimsby or Cleethorpes.
Not far from the train station. And it was like a big church or something, and there was a big square.
St James's.
Yeah, St James's. I think the hotel
the
was
town
maybe
centre.
St James's.
It was a town centre.
And
the big
I joined them a couple
hotel.
of mornings right enough just before a wee can before I went offshore.
It takes me back to my youth. That area you're talking about, just outside the local railway station, it was a Yarborough Hotel, was the big hotel. But in that small area in the middle there were actually 11 pubs and 2 nightclubs, which that was most of my youth really was in and around that area.
Yeah, I think I was in the 2 nightclubs too then. Just to try them, obviously. Just
get a sample.
But then you moved to Norwich after that. You got a big move, 1985. And you actually won the 2nd division, and you get Player of the Year twice, and you also won the Golden Boot. Did you enjoy Norwich?
It was great. It's like a step up. As I said, at Grimsby, I played with my mates, if you like, all the way through. And what people maybe don't know, during that era, Grimsby were in what's the Championship now, and held our own. We'd go and beat Newcastle with Kevin Keegan and Peter Beardsley, and I'm not playing for them. We'd beat Man City, Chelsea, West Ham, all around that era. But when I did move to Norwich, it was just slightly a step up. And I fell in. Well, the good thing was, I didn't think it was at the time. I'd agreed to join Norwich, and playing in the Premiership as it is. But at the end of the season, they lost 3 or 4 games. Coventry managed to win 5 or 6 games, and it ended up that Norwich went down, which was devastating for me at the time. But in the end, ended up a good thing because I was playing with a Premiership team in the Championship, and we won the league by about 12, 15 points, and I scored 27, 28 league goals. So it was a good bounce up. Yeah.
What other players did you have there when about you in Norwich?
Well, Woodsy was in the goal. Chris Woods.
Oh, right, yeah.
Obviously, he left after a year or so and came up to Rangers. The centre halves were Stevie Bruce, and Dave Watson, who went to Everton and captained Everton for 8 or 10 years. Great player, England international.
Yeah.
And we had the likes of John Dean, who was a stalwart in and around the Midlands with Aston Villa in most of his career. International Davy Williams was in the midfield. Mickey Phelan went on to play with Manchester United. So, it was a great mixture of players.
Yeah. And you say it was a step up there for you, going to places like Man United and Liverpool and that. But did you handle it, or was it kind of daunting for you?
Again, in that first year, it helped me settle in. I had a nightmare start. I didn't score in the first 5 games. And for a team that had just been relegated from the Premiership, things weren't looking good. I think we had about 2 or 3 points after 5 games. But Ken Brown was a really good manager, and he just sat everybody down. And he said he'd bought 5 players in the summer. I was one of them. And he said, look, we're going to be okay. Just have a beer, settle down. And I think the next week we beat Sheffield United 3 or 4-0. I scored a couple of goals, got off the mark, and then we just went on a run. I think it was 33 games without being beat.
Oh, brilliant.
So it just helped settle everybody down. So
that was another. I've been to Norwich Stadium too. I've showed in there and all. Yeah. Flew out for Yarmouth, and just the stadium's just next to the train station there and all. Norwich, isn't it?
Yeah, all tied up there.
Quite a good stadium.
It's changed. I was down there 2 weeks ago. I had a bit of a get together, with his Alzheimer's and everything connected with football and head injuries, and so there was a big charity. There's 3 or 4 people, Martin Peters being one, that are connected with Norwich, and there was a big charity weekend with a sort of challenge game and raising some funds. So I went down there, and the ground is totally different to when I was there. Yeah. It's a really smart place now.
That was the 90s or something. I was in maybe 92, 93 or something. I was there. But Dale Gordon's done there, isn't he?
Disco was in that team. Well, Disco couldn't get in the team at the time. A boy, Louis Donoghue, played on the wing, and he was keeping that out. And then Rule Fox came through. So I had all of those players.
I mean, Dale went to Hong Kong, the Legends he was, and he's the only guy that was 90 degrees and he had no sweat in his tap. Honestly, no, he didn't want to go in. He didn't want to play.
No, he's living out there now. He's living out in Saudi.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
Moved out there.
So if I was the warmest place I ever felt. A heat wave there, what were we like? On a hot box.
Right, Bill, I'm going to come to you then. So this is obviously your second time on the Follow We Will Legends show. How did you enjoy the show the last time you were on?
It was absolutely great. Alec Ray was fantastic. It was really good. Just didn't run out of time, didn't it?
I know,
there was a lot
that's
more
what
questions.
happens.
It just went in
so
quick
fast
the last time. But I thought Alec was brilliant the last time. His patter, the stories. It was really, really good.
Well, we've probably got some new viewers since then, since you were on last. So do you want to tell us a wee bit about your company now then, just for any new viewers watching?
Earn It Builders, we specialise in home extensions. We actually open one every week, doing home extensions. And we've won the Builder here in Scotland for the last 3 years in a row.
Brilliant.
So we've done really well. We've been going for 30 years now. And a lot of my men have been working with me for years and years. Brian, my general foreman, has been with me for 23 years. And my son's working with us now. He's been there 3 years. He's nearly qualified another year, and he'll be qualified as a joiner.
Brilliant.
So fingers crossed, another 4 or 5 years, I might be able to retire and he'll take it over.
He'll take it over. That's the way
I hope
to go.
you're listening, Brandon.
So how long have you been following Rangers for, you and your family?
Jesus. My father, my grandfather and all that, all the way back. And they're all from Belfast now. My family in the Camel moved to Castle Douglas. So.
Really? Right.
And they all moved to Castle Douglas and Kirkcudbright. That's where they all staying now.
Oh, I know that area. I know there.
So I've been going to games since I've been 9-10-year-old.
Did you see Kevin playing?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
Aye,
there you go.
aye, I remember that.
He was a bit older than 9 or 10, though.
I was 21 then when Kevin was playing. Aye, I was 21 when he signed for Rangers.
And your boy celebrated his 21st in the Thornton Suite last night.
It was good.
Oh, was that good?
It was his first time. I've took him into hospitality last night, and he had a ball, and everybody in the Thornton Suite was all singing happy birthday.
Aye.
Oh, God.
And then we do a wee chip that there's 8 of us at the table, and we'll put £20 each in. So if it's a corner, a free kick, you move the chip round a bit, and the chip ended up at him last night. So Jamie get
brilliant.
160
Oh,
quid.
that's brilliant. His luck was in then, wasn't it?
The sad thing is that we want to go back every week.
Every-
now.
I know.
I did get a taste of it. I really like this. And you know, Yvonne, the last year there at services, really looks after us. She's absolutely brilliant. So
I wouldn't know Stan still to take me yet.
we'll get you in. Don't worry. We'll get you in.
I took Trish a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately, she enjoyed it.
Did
Oh,
you?
no, that's what happens.
I was hoping she did.
That's what happens.
You'll need to tell us that wee story about last week a wee bit later on. What
Oh,
happens.
aye.
That's what happens when you take the missus to Europe with you.
I know.
Aye.
Well, Kevin, you get the move to up north to Rangers. Did you know much about Rangers before you come up?
I didn't. Obviously, I knew they were a big club. I'd kept my eye on Woodsy. Had left Norwich to go up there, so I did on occasion speak to Woodsy. He'd tell me how big it was. But I don't think until you actually get up and go out on the pitch and maybe or in the stand and go through your first whole firm game that you do realise just how massive a place it is.
How did the transfer come about?
It was unusual. Typical Souness was, I think he had a little sniff a year or so before. I was supposed to go to Tottenham at the Christmas, and Norwich were just asking for too much money. It was back in the days where if you didn't agree on a fee, then you couldn't move. There was no Bosnan ruling or anything else. So I was under contract at Norwich and I had to just bide my time, and I think in the end they turned something like 750 grand down from Venables at Tottenham. And then we got to the summer, I was disillusioned. I'd sat the manager, Ken Brown, who'd signed me, so I was a little bit peed off at that. Brucey had been allowed to go to Man United, and then Souness just came in, and typical Souness style, he got me down at Heathrow Airport, Walter and the rest, and they, to some degree, at 10 o'clock at night, I thought I was just talking over a possible move. And I said, look, you're going to have a problem with the chairman at Norwich, Mr. Chase. He drives a hard bargain. So I said, well, you leave that to us. You'll go and have some tea. So I was in the hotel having some tea, Phil Borsma. And then I see out the back this chairman, Chase, going into a meeting with Walter and them. And then about an hour and a half later, they came out and said, that's it, it's done. So they must have stumped up 800 grand or something. So I later found out, no, they just said, look, that's as much as we're going to give you, 500 grand, I think it was. And that's it. If you don't take it, then Kev's not used to you because he doesn't want to be there. So you might as well take this offer. It'll go down as the days go by. And then 15 minutes later, it was, you're staying here the night. We're going to get the red eye in the morning and go up to Glasgow and you're signing with us.
Brilliant.
The only downside to that, at that time, there was no mobile phones. So my missus is back with the kids in Norwich, expecting me to be home at midnight. I actually rang her from Ibrox at something like 9 in the morning and said, look, we've moved to Scotland. So
I think he was like that, Souness, but when he determined to get somebody, I think that's just what he done.
I don't know what he said to that chairman because, at Christmas, Tottenham had offered 600 and it went to 7 and they offered 7 and it went to 750 and they offered 750 and they still couldn't get the deal done. And then 6 months later, just takes me away for 500.
And there's a question here that Andrew Reid has put in, but I'd also put it in the notes. You knocked back Man United.
Again, it was going back to the times where you didn't knock it back, you just weren't allowed to leave. So I'd signed, I'd done 2 years with Norwich. Things were rosy. We were in the Premiership. I think we'd finished 5th that year. I'd scored the winner at Old Trafford, the winner against Liverpool. And the team I was playing in were doing really well. And Fergie hadn't been there long. and they weren't great at the time. So when Ken Brown said to me, look, Fergie's been on, he wants to come and get you. I don't want you to go. You'd have to play up to get out of here. The chairman's not going to be happy. So I said, look, I'm not going to play up. I'm not that type. You just give me a new deal. I like it here. As long as we keep progressing and that, well, I'm happy with that. So it wasn't so much turning them down. It was just I wasn't prepared to go and kick the door down and make it happen.
Where you were type of thing,
yeah.
I was going to ask you a quick question, right? So, well, it's maybe quick. I don't know what the answer will be like. So you played in the 5-1 game against Celtic. I think it was 1988, maybe.
It was. It was quite early in the season, which was a...
So what I was going to ask you was, what were the Scottish guys? Is it true that the Scottish guys like Durante and Fergie weren't happy that we stopped at the 5-1? They wanted to equal Celtic beating us the 7-1?
I think behind the scenes,
behind the scenes,
Coisty was the one.
Was it Coisty?
Coisty wanted to score some more goals, you know, and it was always. And there's a feeling of that. I don't think we did take our foot off the pedal and stop playing. You know, the way the game had developed was quite unusual in the sense. You know, for me, it was my first Old Firm. I don't do warm-ups, so when I came out at 3 minutes to 3, that's the first I'd ever hit a crowd, and it was enormous. It was drizzling with rain. And in 2 minutes, they were winning 1-0. You know, 3/4 of the stands just went quiet and then got angry, shouting at us, pull your fingers out. And then we got the equaliser. Ray Wilkins scored some unbelievable goal. And then the sun came out and we went 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. And I think the game just drifted away there, you know.
I mean, talking to Coisty, and he actually felt that as soon as he brought his cell phone as a sub, didn't he? And I think he camped it down in the midfield where we were getting forward, and I think that's maybe where it came from. Because he said that they were wanting to push for more goals, and I think soon as come on and just
settled everything.
Then I think he had that kind of about him, didn't he? And I think that's one thing he did to his charisma, didn't
but
he?
He also had the other effect where if he could bring himself on and noise it up.
So, Kevin, you go on and you win the league and the League Cup. Would that have been the highlight of your playing career?
Yeah, I've got to be careful because obviously playing for my hometown team as a 16-year-old in front of my mum and dad with all my pals and my brothers and that watching on, and then doing very well for Grimsby, you know, that's always a soft spot. That's home and it's where it all started. But in terms of, I was really fortunate that when I went to Norwich, I did well and people liked me. And when I came up to Rangers, although it was a shorter period than I'd hoped for, you know, we were really successful and people liked me. So I've got a link in a lot of things, and I've got to be careful just to not upset anybody. But certainly, you know, playing in that year, it was a year after Celtic centenary double. So to win the league back and to play with those players was unbelievable. You know, Butcher had been out for a while with a broken leg. And you're running out on the pitch with Ray Wilkins. I mean, the really boy from Grimsby. I've got Butcher, the England captain, and Goffey, the Scotland captain, just keeping it tight at the back with Woodsy in the goals. And Coisty just scoring goals for fun. And the likes of Durante and Ian Ferguson and Ray Wilkins and that lot in the midfield, Mark Walters.
Was McCoisty and Durante the jokers in the room, in the dressing room?
There certainly was. It soon transpired that Durante especially, you know, he was the one that was, you know, and I tell that story, it's always difficult when you're introduced to new players and that first day in the dressing room at Ibrox, because we trained every day at Ibrox. So I went in there, I knew Woodsy, I'd been introduced to Butcher before, and I'm in and around and I get sat down, and thankfully, touch wood, I got sat down next to Coops. Right. Who looked after me and put an arm around me, and that old
and that helped.
grumpy manner of his. But I always remember Durante coming in, and he hadn't seen anybody for 3 months, and he's having a laugh and a joke. And in them days, as now, my eyes are really dark, you know, and I stand out in that. So Durante's looking around, and he takes an eye to me sitting over there, and he says hello to Butcher, and he says hello to Wilkins. F me, he says, we've signed Chi Chi the panda because of these black eyes and that I've got. And that was my first ever conversation with a wee man, you know.
Because that's what you had one of the questions wrote down as well. So obviously the club at the time had England internationals in the dressing room, so that must have helped you settle as well, knowing them.
Yeah, but there wasn't. I mean, although we had that banter, we did play England against Scotland out on the training pitch, and it had a little bit of rivalry. All that did was intensify some of the training sessions and made it a little bit more important in the five-a-sides rather than, you know, just shoot the breeze and get through a morning's training. But there was never any animosity. It was everybody in it together, and it was a really good club environment.
And Souness played for England too, didn't he?
Well, if he wanted to, he had a look around what squad, who was fit and who was playing. I mean, the downside is, as much as Coisty might have scored a couple of goals, but if Coops got the ball, that was it. Just Coops kept the ball for 20 minutes and nobody could get the ball off him. So
Greg Morrison's put a wee question up. It's actually a question that we had down, Stan, as well, about scoring at Parkhead. So he's put, what was your favourite goal against them in the 5-1 game, or scoring at Parkhead when we won 2-1, winning there for the first time? He's put 9 years. I thought it was 10 years, but
I think it was probably 10.
10 years.
But he may be right. No, I mean, that was great, and it was all part of that development. I never knew about that stat until later. All I knew was, you know, it's a really intense atmosphere over there, and it wasn't for the, you know, kind-hearted to be playing in those games. So when I scored my goal, you know, it was wonderful, and I always remember that. And then later on, there's some added attraction added to that. You know, oh, we've not won there in 10 years. Well, that makes it a bit more special, doesn't it? So again, when people remember that, you know, it's nicely refill it for me.
Yeah, I was at that game, and that was it. The days when they used to have you'll mind that ball at the Rangers end, and it was standing, and it was mental. It was absolutely. But you missed that. You don't think Fitbus missed that with that?
You're right, Stan. I go to the game now, even though, and this animosity of, if you're only getting 1,000 tickets, we're only going to give you 800, and all of this nonsense. What made that 5-1 game for me, and the opposite way, was the stand. You know, the one stand was given to Celtic.
Yeah.
So that increased the atmosphere and everything else. So,
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
You know, pettiness of, oh, you're only going to get so many tickets and we're going to look after our own. It just changed the atmosphere, I think.
I was at a meeting at Ibrox today, and we were even talking about that. You've got Kilmarnock there and St Mirren and teams, and they're playing Rangers and even Celtic, and they can't fold their ground. But they limit the Rangers fans to 1,000 or 1,200 tickets.
Instead of saying fans.
And try to peacify the rent. Instead of opening it out and saying, look, Rangers are full, what you said there, Rangers would fill 2 stands in their ground and make them money. So if they're doing that 4 times a season and they're pleading poverty, I would get them a couple of good signings. I don't understand why they do that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just those 2,000 season ticket holders at the clubs like Kilmarnock and whatever. No disrespect just to them. I'm not picking on them as individuals, but you know, those 2,000 fans don't want their chairman to be giving the other tickets away. They would rather sit in a half-empty stand when there's no atmosphere. So
it's not the same. Going to away games now, isn't it?
No, it's definitely not. No.
I mean, even got Celtic Park. They want you out in that velodrome an hour and a half before kick-off, and then you're standing at the game and there's nobody else in the ground, you're there, and they're holding you in an hour after the game, and it's just it's not the same. It's just...
Well, it's and you're right, you know, it's like either an empty ground, you know, if Kilmarnock, disrespect Kilmarnock, I'm picking on, but if Kilmarnock are playing Aberdeen, you know, and there's 3,500, 4,000 people at the game, you know.
Yeah. And the big games is against Rangers and Celtic, so you would think you would want a full stadium, even if it is a third Rangers.
You used to have that all the time when we used to go through to Kilmarnock a lot. I used to go through with Big Alec and all them. And it was half or 2/3 was all Rangers supporters, and another third was Kilmarnock. But it was full. They were making a turn through their catering, drinks, everything at all. But I know now they don't do that.
And that's how I feel a wee bit for the supporters clubs now, because I've got 2 buses go from my pub, and one of them goes to all the away games, but they're struggling for tickets, and they can't take a full size of bus. So they're trying to compensate, paying more money, maybe at Ross County, and they've only got 6 tickets. They're taking a minibus up and they've got to pay that extra money for
Is this
diesel.
because of this Majors thing and all that? Or is that
No,
anything to do with it? No.
It's other teams.
the other teams don't want us.
They're not giving the
No, the
tickets.
tickets are not there.
It became a safety issue, I think, a few years ago with
It
the
was.
violence and whatever that you couldn't be walking around the ground. So you know, if Celtic confined or Rangers were confined to one stand, if that only held 1,400 people, that was it. You couldn't have them having two stands. Although they did open that up. I've been to these places where on certain match days, you know, it's the end of the season, Celtic are playing at, you know, Motherwell or wherever. They'll give them all the stands just to get a sellout.
Yeah, I don't understand it with clubs.
No,
And-
definitely
and-
not.
and
Because I was at Fir Park the other week and it was the exact same in that. And ended up there was some of us had corporate and we were in next to the Motherwell fans and they're all going crazy because you were in and all that at Fir Park. They were raging we were near in the stands and that. But
Yeah,
the same as selling the hospitality to get us there. And then you look the other week there with Livingston not coming, there's hardly any supporters there. And then you look last night, Ajax brought some amount of support with
they
them.
had a big.
They had a big support with them last night. Where if we're bringing other teams, there's hardly any there for the support.
So some of that wee section that the away fans get. Sometimes a couple of
20 or
dozen.
30,
Aye, no, it's terrible, honestly. Really is.
Which means a lot of Rangers fans are suffering because they can't get seats and all that because they're keeping that one corner for them and they're hardly the minute.
We need Ricky's help for the question, the quiz. There's 2 people answered it, but I don't know who came in first. So Ricky will give us the time. Right, so who won then? Who's won the... So it's Greg Morrison. He's got Grimsby and Stirling Albion.
That's great, Greg. If you get your address in, we'll get the top sent away to you.
Well done.
Greg.
Well done, Greg.
Bit obscure, that one. Mind you did give it away there. So which was the first team he played for? Right, you started at Grimsby, Kev.
Well, true. We've got some events coming up, Lynsey.
Yep.
John Parsons asked us to speak about Blackpool on the 19th of November. There's still some tables left for that. It's a great night. We've got 8 ex-players coming. And if you contact me or Lynsey, we'll put you on to John Patterson. John's one of our sponsors for the Gallant Pioneer anyway. And it's always a great event. Lynsey's singing, so...
It's the best of it. I love it. In November, it's a great night. So it is. You get your meal and all that. And
Where's that?
it's the Gallant Pioneer that run it, but it's in a different club this time. Is it the Imperial in Blackpool?
I think it's Imperial. It's normally in the Pleasure Beach.
Sometimes it's in the Pleasure Beach, but they've changed it this year. So it's in the Imperial or something.
Just when we're talking about Blackpool there, John will be in listening. I was doing about 4 weeks ago there with Derek Ferguson and Derek Johnson. So I met a lassie doing that. I think you knew her, did you?
Who's that?
Shona,
yes, I did. Yep.
We ended up sitting with this couple, and she was a lovely lassie, and she was doing a bonus ball for a boxing glove for Carol Frampton. She was absolutely brilliant, and we had a great day with her. And the gig was at night, and we sat with them at night. And the lassie got knocked. She was in a car crash last Friday in Ayrshire and killed it. Right, aye. So just a wee mention to her family and that.
We're all thinking about
it. Absolutely terrible. And my wee mate was sitting here on the show last week with Willie Black. He's just at the hospital with a back operation there, so he's doing all right. He was on morphine there for 3 days, and then when they sent him out the hospital, they gave him paracetamol. So
he wanted to go back in.
So I don't know how that works. You go from morphine to paracetamol, and that helps, yeah.
What else have you got on, Stan?
We've got the Barcelona, Benidorm weekend next September. There's still tables for the gala dinner for that. That'll be a good weekend. And I've got a Barcelona day in the Stonefield Tavern on 3rd of December. That's near enough sell out.
Is it?
Aye. What about yourself? You get anything coming up?
Blackpool, and then I've got a remembrance dinner dance in Airdrie and get Lee, and that's on the 29th of November. But that'll be a sellout as well. That's Green Gears that's running that.
Green Gears.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Right, so we've got some of the agenda out the way. If John's listening, that was some of our agenda out of the way. Bill, how did you think we played against Aberdeen last Saturday?
I think they played really well. It's just we don't understand how some weeks they can play like that and then they come to other games and they can't play. I can't understand it.
Obviously, there's a different level, isn't
As-
it,
oh,
that we're
the
playing?
Champions League, it definitely is a level. We've had some of the chances too, but we're playing my young boy, 18-year-old at the back, and we've no centre halves. We need more players, and we've not got them. So,
What do you think was the difference against Aberdeen on Saturday? And how do you think they played as well when they not played well? Yeah, it was.
I just think just doesn't seem to be anything settled, does it? You know, we're going from one, not disaster, but one upset and sort of knocking in the confidence when you're playing in Europe and getting beat heavily, and then to come back to the league game and it's a struggle. You know, Celtic have maybe been out there and already got a result, so the pressure's really on, and some of the results have been hard earned. I think it was a Dundee United or whatever, a Dundee game in the cup.
Shocking.
You know, but just to get through it, you know, it's on the
Livingston
back
too.
of a.
Yeah, and Livingston had assist. And I think when in Saturday against Aberdeen, Jim Goodwin, the team he picked, he played 3 at the back against Rangers. So Rangers were playing with 2 wide men and Kolak through the middle. And it was happy days for them because they just destroyed 3 at the back. If they'd have went with 4, then maybe we would never get as much chances. That's just what I think. You know what I mean?
I agree with Stan, definitely.
And we seem to get forward more with them with 3. And I think he made a big boob doing that. You don't come to Ibrox and play 3 at the back. Not in the Premier League anyway.
I think he was doing that because he won his last 3-4 games, didn't he?
I think as much as 3 at the back he's probably tucked his full-backs in as well. He's maybe playing with 5 with 2 sitting in front. It's just making it really difficult. And that's, you know, it is a task to do, if you like. But that's what the old firm have to put up with it year in, year out. You know, people come and park the bus and you've got to break them down.
Well, Livingston sussed it, didn't they? That's what they done. They parked the bus and go on the break, and it worked for them. And then they went to Parkhead and Celtic destroyed them the week after it.
I know, 2.5.
Aye, it just shows you. I mean, after Aberdeen, I came out the game and I went, I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
and it's probably one of the first times
Better games.
They felt a wee bit better about the way they were playing together and stuff.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I never actually even got to see the game on Saturday because I was away at Alton Towers with the kids. But I was checking like my scores and stuff, and when I seen it was 4-1, I was like, yeah, okay, that must have been a good game to bet, sort of thing. Like,
No, definitely. And when we lost that early goal there, I went, oh.
I know.
I think it was quickly levelled, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think that was the key to that game.
Yeah, and looking at the structure of the team, they looked a better shape than what we've had in recent games too. I mean, the boy Lundstrom had a good game. Tillman had no bad game. And then the wee boy Ridvan at Yilmaz, he looked outstanding. Then he's away half injured now. That's him.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, see how the changing of the games all the time in the structures. Do you think it's down to the injuries that we've got? Because there's a lot.
Must be something that because there's something all right with the amount of injuries we're getting.
I think it's difficult if you've not got the continuity all the time. So, you know, in my day, strikers would like to play together. 2 centre halves like to build up a partnership. If that's breaking down all the time, then you know, it's difficult just to keep throwing different players together and expect, because they are quality players still, expecting them to just gel and come out with a. But, you know, that was the old days. I mean, and I don't think we had a tactical meeting when I was playing at Rangers. It was, you know, you've got Guffey and Butcher and whatever. You just go out and do what you're supposed to do, will you?
We had Archie Knox on the show 2 weeks ago, and one of the stories with him was, I think it was Ajax, and I think you were away with that time, Kevin. Gascoigne gets sent off after 15 minutes or something against Ajax.
Right.
And he went and hid in the toilet when he gets sent off because Archie was looking for him. And he wouldn't get that now, would you know?
We've got another question for you, Kevin, as well. It's Ronnie that sent this one in. You know Ronnie? He sent it in the group chat.
All right.
Hi, Kevin. With the exception of Grimsby, which club did you feel more comfortable with? And do any former club and fans invite you onto their podcasts?
I'm lucky enough when I'm always getting an invite back home to Grimsby. But Norwich were really kind to me. You know, I mean, Hall of Famers would be. So we went through a stage where every couple of years we would get invited down there. But, you know, my time up here was just, you know, the reason I came back and retired here was I'd enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
You know, and the affection I'd still get for for that what was a shorter term at Ibrox. But people still are very friendly and kind to me. So, that'll always stay with me.
Oh, that is nice.
There's one here for Gary Gibb. Favourite goal and against who at Rangers?
I think the header in the 5-1 game was typical me, if you like. Matt Walters did about 14 step overs on the wing and then finally crossed the ball. So I'd gone into the near post, come back out, gone to the far post, come back out and gone in again. But a typical header, if you like, from me. But, what a fillip, if you like. The game, the result, the opposition, to score the goal, to just help you settle in. And that was really early on in the season. I think it was only the second or the third game of the season. So that would be my favourite, although I'm always coming back to one that maybe gets overlooked, was the couple of goals I scored on the day we won the league against Hearts.
Yeah,
we went into the game not expecting to clinch the league that year. There was still 4 or 5 games to go, but Celtic actually did us a favour and went up to Aberdeen and drew the game.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about Mark Walters there. I use him in the Legends game still. And he's still got that stepper, but he can't move now. So he does his stepper and then he doesn't go anywhere. It looks good, but...
There's another question there as well, Stan, for Ian, your friend Ian.
Ian Brun, yeah.
So he's saying, in your career overall, what player, same team or opponent, impressed you the most and why?
As I keep saying, very lucky that I've played with some great players. I mean, they stand out for me. And when people say who was the best player you played with, I find that difficult because, people asking me who's the most skillful. Davy Cooper, he couldn't get a ball off him. Ray Wilkins, fantastic. What I see is an overall package, and I'll always go back to Big Terry, who was not only a great player, was more skillful. His left foot, he found McCoist with a 50-yard pass more times than Olnick. So it wasn't just a big badgering centre half, and his leadership qualities in there, the way he protected everybody in the dressing room, out the dressing room, just that made the whole complete player, if you like, for me.
Oh, he was some centre half, Billy. What did you think of him?
Oh, he was different class, honest. What Souness brought up for us was just phenomenal. We were young boys, and it was like dream stuff. Who he was bringing the Glasgow Rangers? We just never thought we would see that, and who he was bringing up. It was just mayor and mayor.
And when you spoke about Woodgie there, that was one of his first signs. He signed the boy Colin West, and then his second signing was Chris Woods, and the England goalkeeper come to the Rangers, and
it was just like that time in life. If you maybe never going to get that again. People think that group of players came up like mercenaries, or Rangers must have been splashing the cash. The reason Butcher came up, he could have got more money if he'd have gone to Tottenham, or more money if he'd have gone Man United. Same with myself. We'd been banned from Europe that summer. I signed for Norwich. Not only should I have been playing in the Premiership, but they got relegated. I should have been playing in Europe because I'd won the League Cup. And then the Heysel disaster meant we were all out. So the next 2 or 3 years, it was really important for the likes of Butcher and Wilkins and whatever to still be playing in European football if they wanted to go away with England. And that was an attraction for me to try to break into that era. So.
You're talking about Ray Wilkins here. I remember we were sitting in the pub and it came up on the screen, Ray Wilkins signed for Rangers. And I was sitting with my dad and I'm like, you're kidding me on. I said, what are they signing him for? He said, he just passes the ball from side to side. And my dad said, he's one of the best midfielders I've ever seen. I said, don't be. See, after 4 games, we're sitting at Ibrox. And he looked at me and I went, right, okay. I think
the thing that typifies Ray, I've played with some good players, but when I came there, and when you get throw-ins and people just hail the ball away, they throw it up the line, hope to get a flick on and the rest of it. Ray would go ape if somebody just threw the ball away. And that's why he made himself available for every throw-in. It would just drop a shoulder, check back, give it to me, put the ball on the floor, give it back to the player and say, let's play some football. It would go absolutely mental if somebody threw the ball.
But it just seemed have his head up all the time when the ball came to him, and gave himself, even at his age, when he was at Rangers, he always found time on the ball. And he always had the pass, and as you said, he was always available for the ball all the time. And it must have been good for like Derek Ferguson and guys like that to learn off him. And this remind me Derek Ferguson saying he used to be sitting in the dressing room and he'd be reading the Italian paper.
Class.
With a cup of tea, do you know what I mean? A 4-0 firm game, and he's just sitting back relaxing, you know what I mean? He's bombers blowing into a paper bag, and Richard Goff's doing Pilates and all that, and he would just be sitting back with a coffee and reading an Italian paper. No hassle.
Just had some new boots delivered straight from Italy, proper kangaroo skins, the rest of it, just made to measure for him, for his feet. So he'd never had to wear a pair of boots in because it was going to be dropped off at the stadium ready to go.
Scoring a double to help Rangers win the league against Hearts. How did it feel that day, Kevin, when the news came through that Aberdeen had drew with Celtic? What did that feel like?
As I just said earlier there, I don't think any of us anticipated that happening on the day. And it was quite funny because we were winning 3 or 4. And I remember a ball went into the corner flag. And my usual self, their right backs going to retrieve the ball. I close him down, and I win as a throw-in. You know, like 4-0 up with 5 minutes to go or something. And there's such a roar from the crowd. I thought, I know I've done well, but I've only won as a throw-in. And then it sort of started to feed in that the ripple of applause, and it went around, and then suddenly we were just talking to each other. I think they must have come on from the dugout. Maybe Jimmy Bell has had thrown that on and said you're the champions, which, you know, for the next 4 or 5 minutes was just mental.
Brilliant.
Aye,
I've got some questions here, Ricky, if you want to put some up there.
Is it? Let's see.
How did you feel your first Old Firm game? What was your first game?
Well, that was it, 5-1.
Oh, was it? Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, you know, I didn't, and I was one of the few that never did a warm-up. You know, in them days, I'd be sitting in the toilet reading the programme and having a cigarette.
I was just going to say that.
At 2:45 when everybody else is coming in. So they came in. So my first experience of it was as the tunnel used to go out onto the pitch then.
Yeah.
So there wasn't even that break. It just suddenly appeared on the pitch, and then the intensity of it was unbelievable. And it was the 5-1 game. So my first experience.
I didn't realise that was your first one.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was a great one.
Where else have we got?
Gary Martin, what's he put? As Mr. Souness famously said, no one likes us, we don't care, but agree they could be getting a cracking turn of the letters in. The letters in, what does that
I think
mean?
that was about the
that's
grounds.
about the grounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Being able to get a ticket.
I've been able to get a ticket. Mm-hmm.
I've got another one here, and it was Steve, favourite game playing for Rangers. We've covered that.
Mm-hmm.
The 5-1. So a wee bit on last night.
I was going to say, do we need to speak about that?
I was hoping we didn't need to, but what was your thoughts last night, Bill?
We've no defence. I mean, we're playing Sands in at the back. He's a midfielder. We've got a young boy, Liam King, 18-year-old. Our captains know whether he's injured or what they know, but he's know what his form was like last year. It's the form's no this year. So there's something not right there, whether it's the formation, who's there. I mean, we lost a few players last year, but...
I know, and I thought Tav was getting better at his game. I thought he was really, I thought there was so much more still to come for him, and I felt like he was getting better every game, and now he's there's a dip.
I think, to be fair to him, he's been classed as this defender. He doesn't defend. He hasn't really ever defended well for me.
No.
But he hadn't needed to. You know, it wasn't incumbent on him. Mm-hmm. You know, it's an odd game. I remember going back maybe 4 or 5 years where he was caught out in a couple of Old Firm games, you know, roaming forward. And I think maybe Edward or whatever had got behind in a certain game, in behind him, and then he nicked a goal and got a penalty or whatever and got Celtic back in the games. But that's never been a problem. I think, you know, his problem has been if the rest of the team don't cover him in them odd occasions when he will get caught out.
You can see it as he's exposed, and I think he got away with it there because were getting goals off him.
Hmm.
But that's not happening now.
But he also had, I know that now he's out injured now.
But we also had Aribo and
Golson there,
Goldson
with Aribo, and then with Bassey.
and Bassey as well.
Whether it was left, right, or what, he would track back and
Mhm.
get in and get the ball in there.
And I think Ryan Jack done that.
Ryan Jack done a lot too.
Ryan Jack always covered for him when he went forward, and
And again, injured again.
But we're not getting a product off him up the park no either. Where, as you said, a few times maybe he would lose the ball and we would win, and he'd maybe scored a goal. Or he'd
He
set
must
up
be
a
getting
couple of goals.
told not to play that way. He must be getting told to not be playing that way.
See, before he done pre-season and that, I watched him on Instagram. He was doing a lot of personal training himself with his brother, and the training what he was doing was phenomenal and that, and he was looking in tip-top shape. I just think it's either confidence or he's carrying an injury.
Do
Mm.
you think he missed Lundstrom last night?
I think he's one that's stood up over that period, hasn't he? You know, everybody's been up and dipped and come back to it. He's of a standard, and he's usually steady Eddie.
Aye. Well, personally, I think he should be our captain.
Do you think
Lundstrom.
so?
Aye.
We need somebody in there that's got a bit
Aye.
of dig and no fear to say, right, come on, what's happening, what's not. I mean, you see it a lot now. It's Al McGregor's running out, screaming and shouting at them all and telling them, go forward, go forward. He's our goalie and he's screaming and shouting like a maniac, telling them to go
Come back to
forward.
what Kevin saying with Butcher and Richard Goff and Bomber and guys like that. They
were all leaders.
We policed ourselves.
Yeah.
As I say, we didn't need tactical awareness, so it was just go and do your job. You're here because you're good at your job, so just go out and do it.
Yeah, and like see yourself, I mean, you played up front, but you were a hard player.
Yeah.
Hard but
Well,
fair.
you've put that down there at your ass, guy. You've put that.
You were hard but fair, and we've no. I don't know. I know the game's changed, and speaking to other ex-players about Tav and in particular and Barisic, I think that's the modern day fullback that they like them to get forward and don't defend as much. But when you've been going to watch football all the years, you're used to the right back being a defender. Your Sandy Jardins, Jimmy Nichols, and guys like that.
But we had a Gary Steve.
Yeah.
You know, Gary came at the same time as I did, and he was renowned for being able to get forward. He had such an athlete. It was always a battle between him and Goffey, who was the fittest on the bleep test and the rest of it. But he would bomb up and down that touchline for England, Everton, and Rangers.
Oh, he was a great player.
But he was always there to be a defender, first and foremost. But it didn't stop him getting forward. But it certainly, you know, he covered his.
He could defend. Yeah, he was always fighting.
He linked up for Everton and that with Trevor Stephen, and that re-emerged when Trevor came to play at Ibrox as well. So they had that again.
He was another great player.
Yeah.
Trevor
So one would drop off if Gary went past him. Trevor would just fill in, and I think that's where maybe we're suffering at the minute is people are not spotting that you know I could drop in the midfield. I could go and help the fullback if the fullback's overlapped, and I'd fill in. Somebody once said to me, I don't know if it was Sooners, you know, if you're a right back and then 5 minutes later you're on the left wing, you're not a right back who's on the left wing. You're a left winger who needs to get to right back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, while you're out there, you're a left winger. Don't tell me, I shouldn't be here, mate.
Just got a shock that we've never, maybe Gio's contacts and David Voss there too. We've never brought a Dutch player in. That's what I'm quite shocked at.
I don't understand. I was saying that to you in the car on the way down there. I know that the Celtic manager brought a lot of the Asian boys in for about 4 bob there. And Van Bronckhorst was there. So how have we not seen any incoming for there? They must be. They brought in some good signings there for next to nothing.
We didn't do any recruitment, did we? Hardly any.
And I thought Dave Voss coming in because he was well thought at Ajax and that, and for us to get him at Rangers was meant to be a big coup. And
is that not his remit to help on that side of it?
To bring up the younger ones and all.
There's 2 there with Wally Black, and it's Kevin's favourite player when he was a lad.
When I was,
was
my favourite player, and I don't know why, but I used to like to watch Derby and Ipswich. My favourite player was a boy, Trevor Wymack, who played centre forward for Ipswich. Got 2 or 3 England caps, but I was fortunate enough at the end of Trevor's career, he came to Grimsby at the end of it from over in America, and I played with him for a season. I probably learnt more off Trevor in that season than I did in the rest of my career off anybody, you know.
It was a big influence for you then.
He was so cool, so laid back. Somebody would whack a ball, he could take it on his chest and drop the ball at his feet. But you know, I mean, there's some talented players I've played with, you know, as I keep going back to Coops, you know, it was amazing. The one of you, Coops would rather get a nutmegs than score a goal or set anything up. All he wanted to do was get a nutmegs, and he did it so often and whatever. And I said to him, how are you? And he was that clever. And I watched him do it after he told me. He said, when I'm running up the pitch, he said, and the fullback's trying to chase me and close me down and make a tackle, I know where the ball is. The ball's just at the end of my left foot. And he said, I'm watching his drag pattern. And then when he oversteps one, I kick it through his legs and shout, nutmegs, and run up the pitch the other way. And I watched him, you know, 2 or 3 times. And he actually was doing that. He was just playing the game, but he was watching it. And if you ever got the opportunity, if you overstretched, he'd just stick it through your legs and come out the other side.
I've done a Q&A with Alec McDonald there a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about, one of the boys in the audience asked the question, how good was Davy Cooper? And he's the first guy ever that never went, oh, he's a genius, he's brilliant. He said, see, when I played in the middle of the park, he said, it used to frustrate me. He says, because my game was running for the middle of the park into the box. He said, I'd make a run. He says, so I'd see Coops with the ball and I would make a run into the box and he would get back and beat the guy again. He said, then I would need to come back out the box and I would make a run in again. Then he decided to beat him again. He said, he used to crack me up. Just people were saying there. And he said he'd prefer to go and nutmeg somebody and come back.
Oh, Willie Black's been funny. So he is. Bill, who was your favourite builder? Was it Bob?
Definitely. Poor Bob.
A wee bit of humour there.
Definitely. Good on you, Willie.
That's brilliant.
So we've got a big game on Saturday. We've got Lundstrom back. Kamala got a wee bit of game time there, so he's fit again. And I think still the problem is defence, because we're liable to lose goals with what we've got there. And I'm not blaming the boys' Sands, because he's a midfielder and the boys been asked to get in and play centre half.
Do a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they played well against Aberdeen in midfield too.
I know, he did a great game.
He did a great game.
Do you know, I thought last night that we had some good wee spells in the game.
Aye, no, we did. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you've got an 18-year-old boy, as Bill said there, playing, and his confidence must be doing getting results like that. He's not getting anybody. See, if you get an 18-year-old,
you need to be coming into the team when the team's playing well.
Exactly.
And then you're an 18-year-old, and you make a goal, or you make a couple of great tackles, and get a good shout off the crowd, and that just builds you on a little bit.
I think that's the time you bring young boys through, when you're playing well. Not bringing them in when we're getting heavy defeats.
The amount of injuries we've got is just unbelievable. I mean, somebody was telling us, I don't know if I said stuff, I forgot to say in the motor, like Hollander coming in, what we've paid him in wages, what he's signing on fee is. There's like 15, I can't remember how many games we've had him, but all in, the time his contract's out, it's cost us £9 million between his wages, the fee we've paid for him, and he's been injured
Maybe
a lot.
these are the reasons we're not recruiting, because
we keep recruiting players. We know they've been injury prone, but for some reason we're bringing them in. I mean, John Suter, great player and all that, but we knew he was injury prone and he's injured again. So how's all these injuries happening all the time?
We do keep going back, as I don't get to watch it as often as I did. I've got to have a job and I'm working a lot of Saturdays now. But you know, we're still reliant when I pick up that, and that Arfield's come back into the team, which is great. You know, I know young Scotty from his time at Falkirk, but you know, to rely on Arfield and Davis and that lot in that midfield,
you can't.
You know, they should just be the odd one of them making an appearance just to hold it tight and pass their experience on. And a lot of that being the training ground and the training sessions that they do. But you know, every time some midfield, you know, it's not got the legs that it should have had.
Seen that last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got one at 36 and one at 39-year-old. You're playing Ajax with two young boys in the middle of the park up against them with a bit of pace. No chance. No chance.
Oh, definitely not.
But we'll see how we go on Saturday.
Right. Have you got a prediction of that? What do you think?
Need a win.
2-0 Rangers.
It's like, well, you're wishing and you're hoping things will come good, but you can't make a prediction.
No, not in it. You know, that's
sad. You don't know who's going to be fit. You don't know what the team's going to be.
I know.
I hope we've got as much luck as Celtic did up there.
Oh,
they were drawn one each, and St Johnstone scored in 93 minutes, and they took centre, and Celtic went up the park with the ball, and one of the Celtic I don't know if it was a winger or the fullback, was bombing forward. And the guy you only need to do was put it out the park.
He jumped up and down his leg, pulled his hamstring, jumped up
And he
down.
fell.
Yeah.
And he just went by him, crossed the ball and got a goal.
Seen it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
98th minute or something.
Let's hope we don't have to rely on luck now.
No. Well,
Let's just go out there with a
give it
good-
best.
good team, trained well all week, and know what we're doing, and just go and get the result.
Yeah. And get back to league business.
Yeah.
The Champions League's
That's
away now.
That's it.
Need to
It's a
put
way.
it behind us.
That's it. Right, well, just about ready to end the show now then. So remember, folks, to get involved, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like in our Twitter, Facebook and Instagram pages, follow We Will Legends podcast. A huge thank you to our guests, Kevin and Bill. Thanks very much, guys, for coming on, entertaining our viewers. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And thanks to Ricky as well for working behind the scenes, getting your questions on the screen. Stan and I look forward to seeing you tune in again in a couple of weeks' time. We'll get the details posted and the link nearer the time, and also as well just keep in our thoughts for Remembrance Weekend, all the people who lost their lives in the war. All right, so anyway, see you in 2 weeks' time. Good night and
Good night.
God bless.
Cheers.
night.
Bye-bye.